Jai Janendra and hello everyone. We welcome you to the 12th episode of Level Up series powered by Wari Group. Following our tradition, we'll begin our program by offering our prayers. Rahulji, if you could start the Namo Karman, please. Thank you. It's been more than a year that we started airing this program every month. And every month we've had, inspirational leaders coming in and sharing their thoughts. We took a little bit of break. And while we are excited to be back, we also apologize to the patrons and the friends of the mentorship program for the time we were away. To all of us who have joined us today for the first time, Level Up series is a flagship event of the JITO mentorship platform, where we have highly accomplished leaders who come speak live about the topics related to professional growth and development. It's a free program. People from across the world can join in, and all the videos are time-stamped, summarized, and uploaded onto YouTube in a few days from the program. Before we begin, I'll just call out the structure for today. The main program would be for about 45 minutes, the panel discussion, which will consist of opening remarks from our mentors, followed by a discussion in a roundtable fashion. We would then segue into a small section where we'll learn about the mentorship platform, followed by a short Q&A. To know our mentors better, we'll be asking some personal question, trying to know them up close. And then we will open it up to the audience for Q&A. We'll formally close our program at 12:30 p.m., followed by the vote of thanks. The mentees and the attendees can stay back even after 12:30 p.m. If they want to have a one-on-one conversation with the mentors. All the mentees and attendees today can start posting their questions, and we will pick them up and try to answer them either during the panel discussion or during the Q&A. But before we get into the main program, I would like to invite Sanyog ji, our mentor and our catalyst of this program, to speak about JITO. Sanyog ji, over to you.
Thank you, Amolji. I'll just take a minute to share my screen. Jai Janendra, everyone. I am Sanyog Jain, core member of the JITO membership program. First and foremost, a very warm welcome to our audience as well as our esteemed panelists. I think it is only appropriate that we start by understanding a little bit about JITO and the activities which the organization does throughout the country and also as part of many of the international chapters. JITO, Jain International Trade Organization, is a community platform which is focused towards education, empowerment, and seva. One of the many interesting facets of JITO is that it caters to every member of the family. There is JITO Youth Wing, there is JITO Ladies Wing, which has nearly 11,000 members, there is JITO Business Network, and of course, JPF. JPF, which is JITO Professional Forum, it has membership of professionals, practicing professionals, like doctors, lawyers, architects, CAs, and corporate professionals. There are several programs which are geared towards education, empowerment, and seva, which are sponsored by JPF. Another important facet of JITO is that it reaches out to all sects of the community. JITO is growing internationally. It has 11 international chapters, the latest one being in Canada, opened in Canada. It has 9 zones, as well as 67 chapters across the country. The membership is growing. Right now, it's close to 15,000. Now, the vision of the JITO Professional Forum can be described in twofold. First, to involve, network, and engage Jain professionals globally. Second, to facilitate interactions of Jain professionals with JITO members for professional development and growth. Our mission for 2021 and beyond is to build a platform where Jain professionals can engage with the top 100 accomplished Jain professionals, industry leaders. In the successive slides, I will be able to share with you, or when I come back after our panel discussion, I'll be able to share with you what is that we have been doing in this area. Some of the initiatives by JPF are the JPF iBox. It is a TED-style video program, about 15 minutes, where you can hear thought leadership. All of the videos from the past sessions are there on the JITO YouTube channel. Then we have the JPF networking program, and then again, the Level Up series for which you have joined today. As Amolji said, this is the 12th in the series, and every month we invite few of our mentors to come and speak to us on variety of topics which are of interest to our audience. In order to know more about JITO, you can log into www.jito.org, where you can get detailed information about the organization, what it is doing in different fields, and also how to join the organization. So thank you very much. I'm looking forward to hearing our panelists, and over to you, Amolji.
Thank you, Sanyog. The topic for today is something which I think we have all felt the importance of in last few years. So when we talk about what we're going to discuss today, it's going to be about emerging trends in technology, and more importantly, the kind of career opportunities that it's going to create. Now, when we think about this topic and whatever has happened around us in past few years, and think about how digital transformation in the industries or digital in general has brought about massive shifts in the world, personally to us, and even in the world of work, we can particularly see one trend emerging where the organizations, and particularly the leaders in the industry across all sectors, whether it is agri, finance, manufacturing, media, entertainment, they are all evolving in a way that they no longer aspire to just be defined by their industry or the leaders in the industry, but as technology companies. That's a massive change that is happening in the way the companies are thinking about themselves. In that context, employability is not just about soft skills such as communication, collaboration, critical thinking, or emotional intelligence as they talk. They're important, but as digital platforms like artificial intelligence, application, robotics, Internet of Things makes inroads into the workplace and even our personal lives, employability skills will increasingly be centered around having the digital skills at the workplace. In fact, in a recent survey by McKinsey, it was said that 48% of the corporates believe that technology skills will take precedence over soft skills. So today, when we speak about future of work from a technology lens and the opportunity it brings to us and how do we tap into these opportunities, we have 3 mentors from the mentorship platform to talk about them. I would like to welcome Phoram Ji first. Phoram Ji is joining us from Singapore. He is our Chief Information and Security Officer for PayPal APAC, and he has added responsibilities to overlook operations in Latin. He's a seasoned leader with 20 years of experience building cybersecurity solutions for financial institutions, healthcare companies, telcos, and even public sector companies across North America and APAC. He serves on the board of DC-based CyberLink Institute, and he's advisor to numerous startups in India and US. He would be sharing his views on cybersecurity today. Phoram ji, welcome.
Thanks a
and
lot.
thank you for your time today.
Yeah, Jai Jinendra, thanks a lot.
Next, I would like to welcome Manish ji. Manish ji is joining us from Jakarta, and he was in Singapore until very recently. He comes with 3 decades of global industry experience. He's currently the Vice President and the Chief Business Development Officer at American Tower Corp, which is the subsidiary of the largest REIT, which is the Real Estate Investment Trust in the world, which has a market cap of $125 billion. And he's responsible for driving both organic and inorganic, which is acquisitions-led growth. He serves on boards of multiple companies in APAC, which includes the world's #1 tower company industry forum. And he comes with an experience working with telcos, smart energy storage systems in the sustainability space, IT companies, and engineering companies. He would be sharing his views about digital infra today, including 5G. Manish ji, very warm welcome, and it is our pleasure to have you with us today.
Jai Jinendra, thank you.
Our third panelist for today is joining us from Los Angeles, US, and we should thank him for being with us this late. Ranjan ji, he comes with over 2 decades of experience, and he's currently the executive director at Walt Disney Company, a company which has touched our lives one way or the other. He's currently the advisor to a few very interesting stealth mode startups. He's known to be a speaker, and he's worked with IT giants like TCS, networking giants like Cisco, Big Four companies like PwC. Today, he'll be sharing his views on Web 3.0 and other things which make the space very interesting. Ranjan ji, welcome, and we are excited to have you with us and look forward to hearing from all the panelists today.
Jai Jinendra, I'm glad to be here.
Now that we have introduced our mentors, it is only appropriate that we also get to know our audience. So we'll be launching a very short poll. It has only 3 questions, and I'll request all the mentees and the attendees to answer that poll. To our mentors who may not be able to see it, but if they can, I would just describe the poll. It has essentially 3 questions. It talks about, what kind of professionals do we have? Are they students, self-employed, salaried, or we could have some people who are enthusiasts as well. Then we are looking for what is the level of experience they have, and then are they technical, functional, or both, or if they are in a different profession, that all of that. So we are 73% there. We'll request all of you to key in your answers to the poll. Okay, we have 75% participants who have keyed in. We will be closing the poll shortly. Okay. We're closing the poll now. So, to our panelists, we have an interesting mix of people. Almost 75% of them are professionals, 20% are self-employed, and 5% are students. Majority of the people are in the 0 to 7 years experience range, which is 40% of our audience today. And then 30%, and I think it's fairly balanced, about 38% are 15 plus years of experience. And then we have 20% people who are within the 7 to 15% range. On the other side, we have about a good mix on the technical, non-technical, and people who are both techno and functional, wherein we have about 40% people who are both technical and functional, about 28% who are technical, and 28% who are non-technical. So to the panelists today, you have a very, very balanced mix of audience. Now, before we enter the main section, I have a short disclaimer. All our mentors are here today in their personal capacity, and their views are personal, and they do not by any means express the views or opinions of their respective employers. As we go start the panel discussion, before we enter the open mic, another message to all the mentees and the attendees: you can start posting your questions and we'll pick them up and try to answer them during a panel discussion or during our Q&A. Now, as a run up to this event, I've been speaking to the mentors, and we've had some very, very interesting conversations, which has changed my perspective on each of these topics. To begin with, we're going to give each of the mentors about 3 minutes to give us their understanding and enlighten us about what they think about this sector. I would like to begin with Manishji. Why don't you tell us a little bit about digital infra, how things have evolved, and what is so exciting about this sector, and especially knowing that you come from the largest, REI, you're a subsidiary of the largest REIT company. ATC is a very, very well-known company. Share your views on digital infra, please. Manishji.
Well, thank you very much. And it is indeed my honor to be here today and talk about a subject which is now very close to my heart. And I'd say something which is changing the way we look at the world and the way things are evolving. So I will be, talking about 5G and mobile in the telecom space, and obviously the digital infrastructure. But before I get into that, just a quick comment. I think thanks to the audience for that poll and the outcome we saw, very well split. I think the technical, non-technical combination is very interesting. What struck me was the percentage, audience from 0 to 7 years and then 15 plus. That's constituting significant portion, like 30% each or 40% each, and 20% is in the middle category. Now I'm just analyzing. No, I mean nothing. Maybe those initial years and the 15 plus year category is where I think you see a change. Or you're looking for more technology, more innovation. The 7 to 15 years is where you're sort of settled, and I think you are busy what you are doing. I don't know. This is just, I'm analyzing one. I'm all here. Maybe I'm wrong here, but very interesting to see how the audience is here. And what we'll do is, between me and Phoram ji and Ranjan ji, I think we'll talk about our respective fields, and then how this, sort of helps them in their career growth or in their life in general. We don't mean, whatever you're doing does not mean you need to change your career. I think what we are trying to convey here is that, look, the world is evolving, the world is changing. If we have been doing more on the finance side, then again, things are changing, and there is technology coming in the finance side, right? Digital coming in there. If you have been doing hardcore engineering, then there is some level of change coming there also, right? So I think that's the combination we'll be talking about and trying to at least share our experiences with the audience. The subject which I'll be talking about is more on the mobile and digital infra space. So, if we all think about the mobile technology space, today we are talking about 5G, but then everything started with 1G. And I don't know how many of you will remember, it started, in the mid 80s. That's when 1G was launched. And Motorola, one of the pioneers, was sort of behind this technology, the cellular technology or the wireless technology that we talk about. Today, we are into 5G, and pretty much every 10 years, on an average, I'm not talking about exact, but pretty much every 10 years, a new technology has evolved in the mobile space. So 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G, right? The one which lasted the shortest period, or which would last the shortest period, is 3G. But the one which a lot of countries are using even today is 2G. And 2G was primarily voice driven. What changed our lifestyle to a large degree is 4G, which is what most of us are using today, right? And 4G is primarily data driven. Now, when we talk about 5G, 5G is, in my view, and different people may have different perspectives, but as I see the world, 5G is going to be transformational. And the reason I say that is because the type of applications which are possible because of 5G technology are really mind-boggling, right? I mean, the way some of the applications are coming up, the way enterprises looking at this technology, the way new world is now dependent on this technology, and because of reasons, there are solid reasons why 5G is so talked about. Now, quite possible that 5G doesn't live up to its expectations, which happened with 3G also to a certain degree, right? But then there is already a lot of work going on 6G, okay? And who knows, maybe 6G is going to be the sort of mainstream 5 years, 6 years, 7 years down the line. But definitely from our perspective, rest assured that at least for the next good 5 to 7 years, 8 years, 4G is here. And 4G would be sufficient for a lot of applications, a lot of our day-to-day usage, okay? 5G will evolve. In certain countries, it has already started, but primarily in Asia, in ASEAN, in South Asia, it is yet to be launched full-time. Certain marketing type of launches have been, or soft launches have taken place, but again, it is evolving, right? So what will happen in 5G is it will take another 2 to 3 years before really it starts picking up, but then it has still a long journey to go. So, as end users, we will all start using 5G technology, and I'll maybe Amoji, I don't know how much time I have, but I'll talk about why 5G is important, some of the reasons. What would make 5G a success? It's very important to understand that we talk about technology, but what would make it success, and is there enough happening in the world to make it a successful technology, right? And to make it successful, one important aspect is the digital infrastructure. Now, in digital infrastructure, in the past, in 1G, 2G, 3G, we only used to talk about towers, telecom towers, and they continue to be the core of 5G also. Nothing is changing on that front. But then the type of towers, the height of towers, the structural capacity of towers, talking about fiberization, talking about edge compute, a lot of these new things are now coming in, right? And that's where the digital transformation is taking place, okay? So I think, during the program, I'll talk more about that as well. But one important thing I just wanted to mention here, that why is this change happening so fast, so quick? Okay, and I want to just touch on the sort of the, if I can use the word, the catalyst for it all, right? So we all went through COVID, and all the devastation that happened because of COVID. I mean, we all know that. But one good thing that happened during COVID is, we all realized that how important is mobile technology, digital technology for our livelihoods now, right? Few important changes that happened in the world. One, we all were completely dependent on internet access. Now, whether you get that internet access through broadband or through mobile is a separate issue, but that's how we all became dependent. Our offices moved from center of the town, downtown, CBDs to our own houses, right? And we all, started looking at, I don't have enough bandwidth at my home, right? The whole pattern, like what we used to call is the peak period, or the peak in the traffic, it moved from CBDs, downtowns, office areas to spread across the suburbs, right? but our suburbs were just not developed. There was not enough data. There was not enough capacity towers, not enough coverage, and people were struggling, right? So one important thing that happened as a part of all these things is government realized the importance of opening up digital sector, and regulatory permits and policies, regulatory framework was changed significantly by pretty much every government across the world. And they all realized that if we have to serve our people, if we have to sort of sort the problems of our masses, we can't go everywhere using our vehicles and doctors and all those things, right? You have to sort of go through digital. And that's where government realized it, enterprises realized it, we as individuals realized it. And I think in general, in addition to Roti Kapla and Makan, today digital connectivity is the fourth lifeline of the life that we are living. So I'll leave it there, Amol, just a precursor to what I would be talking about during the session.
Yep, and very well timed. There's a lot of news even in India, wherein one of the largest telecom companies is going to roll out 5G in October, and it's going to be potentially game changer. So thank you, Manish ji, for your views. I would now like to invite Ranjan ji. Ranjan ji, you come from an interesting background. Like you said, you've been working on some interesting startups, and the company in itself has made a very unique move of appointing an officer for Metaverse to look at Metaverse particularly. So your topic around Web 3.0 becomes very, very apt. Enlighten us a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting, and obviously time will tell what comes out of the decision made at the senior leadership within Disney. But I'm here to talk about Web 3.0. So just to set the stage for people who don't know what Web 3.0 is. So let me just take a few seconds to talk about Web 1.0, just to take you through the journey. So in the 80s, when the internet was picking up pace, the websites were very read-only, very static, where you get the data, but you cannot really interact with it. So the customer, when you have to interact with the customer service, you send them an email, and I'll use this example to explain 2 and 3 also. But so that Web 1.0 was very static type of an environment, and there was not much of a customer service or customized environment for the end user. After living like this for, I would say, 7 or 8 years, Web 1.0 slowly started shifting into 2.0, which is where we are. And then, where the websites started allowing more interaction with the end customer, or customers started interacting more with the websites. You could purchase products. The customer service moved from sending them an email to having chats. You can make a call, or you have an interactive chat. And now we are moving towards Web 3.0. So I would say we are not yet there, but somewhere between 2 and 3.0, where the websites are now becoming much more predictive in understanding the customer need. And that is the world that we are going to see more and more. And the example I took was the most simplistic version, where you're interacting with the website, and the website knows, or the customer service knows, that when you're there and you're looking for a chat, they could be predictively asking you or telling you, are you here to check the order? By the way, it's reaching tomorrow. Without you even asking them anything, they can tell you predictively. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about what exactly the Web 3.0 brings to the future, from not just from a technology standpoint, but from a career standpoint. So it has multiple components. The few of the big ones are definitely an investment into artificial intelligence, machine learning. Then we will talk about cryptocurrency or blockchain-based cryptocurrency. So blockchain is going to be a big element of that. And then the other part is going to be how you interact with the Web 3.0 service. So it could be a static one, like you're on the web laptop and you're just interacting with it. Or it could be much more immersive, using technologies like artificial reality, virtual reality, or a combination of that. So when you bring it all together, your artificial intelligence, your blockchain, your various forms of realities and you bring combine it together, that is where you see the true power of Web 3.0. And to Manish's earlier point, where network is becoming so powerful with the speed, with the bandwidth, Web 3.0 doesn't really will be constrained with the network speed, which is how things were in the past, right? So I can definitely see, like, and especially another thing that he mentioned, I was just taking notes over there. When COVID happened, overnight, our experience changed. We all were used to going to office, working in a certain manner, interacting, having those physical interaction. Suddenly that became a Zoom interaction. We started talking about Zoom fatigue, right? So interaction changed, the experiences changed. Work was still getting done, but the experiences changed. So God forbid, if another healthcare crisis, if that ever happens, I can definitely see Web 3.0 playing a major role, because that's where, as we are in the hybrid world, or we are moving towards more and more towards a hybrid world, creating that landscape, creating that same landscape for the experience is much more immersive. I think that's where the future is going to be. So we'll talk more about that. I just wanted to lay the foundation around what Web 3.0 looks like, and then we'll talk more.
Got it. Thank you so much, Ranjan ji, for sharing that. I would now want to bring in Mr. Phoram ji. If you look at the latest iPhone ad, they don't talk about their features at all. They talk about privacy. And if you see what is going around us, I think information security and cybersecurity, when it comes to at least critical infrastructure, has now come in full circle and become mainstream. Phoram ji, you have for a very long time been at the center of this action. Tell us, what do you think about this world, and share your thoughts about how things are changing and how things are evolving.
Sure. Thanks a lot, first of all, for this opportunity to connect with this platform. I believe that, again, if you had, with these three big topics, we could take the entire duration of the session just talking about everything that we have done and we feel is going to happen. Once again, I urge all the attendees and mentees to use this opportunity to get provoked by the topics that we are talking about, by the tidbits that we keep dropping and asking the questions, because the goal here is taking discussions beyond this particular session into the mentorship aspects and how you can leverage some of the knowledges that we cover. I've put together a few slides to walk through what I believe cybersecurity in general looks like, but I also feel kind of glad that you had Manish ji and Ranjan ji go before me, because it kind of sets the stage pretty well for what I want to talk about. So let me, there you go. And I'll try to keep it, minimal to 3 minutes. I won't talk about the intro. Obviously, you've done it, cybersecurity trends, and then careers, and hope that we can discuss it in the panel and the Q&A.
Yep.
So what is cybersecurity? You can see it, yeah? All right, thanks. At the core of it, as you heard, a lot of, digitization, I like that line, after Roti Kapda Makan, digital connectivity is the main necessity that everybody needs. Every business, every individual, every institution, every organization in this connected time cannot survive without that technology. And as use comes in, abuse is not too far behind. And it's kind of, whether it is the confidentiality, the integrity, the availability of all of these, cybersecurity kind of is the protection of the science that protects and helps in creating the tools and the knowledge that is necessary to ensure that the right type of services are provided. What is interesting about cybersecurity for those that are looking at it from a career perspective, or either from a professional side or as a business, is unlike a lot of engineering sciences, there is a adversary that is constantly changing. When you build a bridge, you build something thinking 25 years ahead, and you kind of have certain parameters in mind, and it kind of stays pretty well. I mean, climate change is challenging all of those assumptions, but primarily most of the engineering sciences kind of stay static for the most part, or at least you can predict for next 10 years. For digital, because the technology advancements are so quick and so rapid, cybersecurity has to keep up as well. And that's why it's extremely hard to have one eye on making sure that the business continues to operate. On the other, understand how the adversary and the attacker's techniques are evolving, and how can you continue to upgrade and uplift your defenses. I think, if you compare whatever professions you are in, and if you're thinking about a jump again and trying to think about what areas, what ways to look at it, some of these numbers, and if you just do 2022 cybersecurity trends, McKinsey, you'll find a full report that shows this infographics. But just look at how much growth there is happening, whether it's on the cybercrime side, whether it is on the spending side, whether it is on the need for professionals around the world that have the adequate skill set. Is just an incredible space to be, interested in. Again, the underlying technologies that we heard of, as the infra improves, as more and more use cases, whether Web 3.0, whether IoT, whether all the other things that come in different facets of our daily lives, cybersecurity is becoming even more important on a individual as well as an organizational basis. So I really hope that a lot of discussions happen, and you factor in how it can impact your individual careers and or the work that you do. And then why? I mean, I mentioned how that is evolving, and one way to think about how a career grows or how an industry grows is to know who else is trying to have an impact on that. And this graph, I really liked it because it used to be 20, 30 years ago that people were worried about hacktivists and activists and individual cyber criminals. And over the years now, it has become, whether it is Russia, Ukraine, the biggest impact that has had outside of obviously the physical warfare is on the cyber front. The things that are happening between a lot of companies, espionage, countries, individuals. There is a lot of stuff that happens or has moved over from traditional channels or analog channels into digital, and hence knowledge about cybercrime in protecting yourselves as well as your companies is extremely important. So in short, I mean, I'd say, there are these challenges where the cybercrime is increasing, there's huge shortage of talent, and the crime is borderless and dynamic. And that also creates a lot of opportunities where there's lots of jobs, lots of need for innovations and startups. Some places, amazing activities happening in India as well, that I'm super proud of. Just this last week, IIT Bombay started its first trust lab through donations from some of its alums. But that's going to be an amazing place for anybody, any business owner, since we have quite a few of those as well, to look at partnering with academia, with industrialists and professionals to try and look at having a more controlled environment where you can try your innovations. And then for folks that are working in any kind of areas, thinking about cybersecurity as a business differentiator is extremely important as well. Career-wise, I mean, again, we'll talk a lot about it, but there's lots and lots of new jobs coming up. I've included the link in roadmaps and transformation maps of how, if you are already working in a technology sector, especially in IT, and you want to transition, if you want to capture or gather some of the skill sets, what type of positions you can start thinking about, what type of skill sets may be needed, and how do you map out that entire path. And that's, again, I would advise against thinking about 5 or more years. Thinking just 12 to 18 months is, however, extremely important, because what type of certifications, what type of experience you want to gain if you want to move in this area. These are just some of the certifications. For every new technology advancements that comes in, there is a security aspect of it, and there are educational organizations and institutions, and again, mentorship programs like this, where you can start thinking about discussing how can you go a little bit deeper? What type of certifications can you work towards? How do you make sure that your branding around and visibility around the type of new skill sets that you are acquiring is increased? I would talk a little bit about it because as technical skills kind of capture, you also need to know how all of that impacts business. The reason I included this slide is cybersecurity over the last 2 decades has become a cost center, something that had happened. If you look at Office Space, the movie, most cybersecurity folks used to get the basement and a dark room and nobody knew what they do except say no to new projects going live. And now it's become a mainstream discipline where people have to really work hand in hand to ensure that whatever new products they publish, whatever new strategies they have, new campaigns they want to do are secure, and security and trust kind of is synonymous with the brand that they're going to represent. So I'll kind of stop there to set the stage once again, making sure that the dialogue that we have now and the questions that you can come up with have been inspired, some of it by the high level overview that I gave of the discipline. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Phoram. I think it would be a good segue to post a question to everybody here, and maybe I would begin with, Ranjan ji, when you think about just what Phoram ji said, do you see some industry-centric trends, particularly in your industry or in other industries where you would see a disruptive innovation, basically changing the way things are today from the topic that you had in mind?
That's a great question and a very thought-provoking question. So, cybersecurity, definitely. I wholeheartedly agree with what Phoram just said around cybersecurity. But just looking at, I think the last slide he had was any new trend that is coming, cybersecurity is going to have a place and a unique place, and I think it's going to grow even more. So when I talked about Web 3.0 and the different technologies it is comprised of, right? We talk about cryptocurrency, we talk about NFTs, we talk about artificial intelligence. So these trends are emerging, these trends are growing, it is slowly reaching into the mainstream. For the individuals, yes, you need to know about these technologies as you are progressing in your career, but also the security aspect of that. Because bad people don't really go by the rule that, oh, I'm in this area, so I'm only going to follow this area. They just look for where I can find the vulnerability, where I can make the fastest money, right? So they don't go by the rules. Versus corporations, you have to follow a certain set of rules, right? So to me, it's like anyone who is, whether you're a developer, whether you are into management, whether you are into any level within the leadership role, not just knowing anything about the technology or the emerging trends, yes, that is needed, but security cannot be a bolted thing. I remember from you mentioned that 20 years back, security professionals used to be in the dark room. I was one of those people in those dark rooms, right? Thankfully now I have the spotlight in the company I have. So having that security built into the DNA of your products, security built into the whether it's a trend and then as a part of the learning, you can't just take it at the last minute. No, it has to be a part of it, because like I said, the bad actors don't follow a script. They just look for the weakest link in the chain, right? So I think that's where I'll continue to focus on.
All right. Manish, you touched upon 5G. And like we just spoke about, 5G is going to become mainstream very, very soon, if not for the regular consumer, but at least from an enterprise perspective. Are you seeing similar industry trends within your industry or even beyond? Because I think it is very clear that telecom will no longer be verticalized. It will touch every industry.
Yeah. No, I think absolutely, Amol. I think 5G is changing the way world is going to be. One classic example is recently, and again, I'll come to India, there was 5G spectrum allocation and, the whole distribution of that, right? And not just the 3 operators, but there was one more player which basically went for 5G spectrum because they are targeting enterprise customers, right? And the name is Adani's. So Adani's are acquiring 5G spectrum, basically focusing enterprise as a customer. And they will start, in my view, they will first start with their own enterprise because they have such a massive enterprise. They would be using 5G for their sort of internal consumption, and then maybe start offering something into that space to other enterprises. And who knows? I mean, Adani's can be, I don't know, 3rd or 4th operator in India one day. Okay, so I think what is happening is the type of applications that we are going to see because of 5G is where I think our life is going to change. So, for example, driverless, transportation, right? We already see so many trials, proof of concepts, pilot projects going on across the world. I mean, I know in Singapore, in US and in TU, you can see some of these projects going on. And, driverless cars are moving around here and there, and a lot of experimentation is going on there. One day it will soon become a reality, right? And applications like, you have to drop certain people from airport to a certain hotel, right? Or within the airport from terminal 1 to terminal 2. This some of these projects can start there. So this is one area where I see 5G coming in, and I'll share why 5G is going to be required. Gaming, again, another application where right now it's just impossible to have that actual feel of gaming applications, but 5G is going to enable it, right? Healthcare, again, very, very important application. Today you can do certain things with 4G, but 4G has its own limitations, right? So I think what is important here to note is that the applications where you require very, very fast processing and what we call as latency time, right? Any application that requires latency time less than 10 milliseconds is what 5G is going to enable. So a driverless car is a classic example. You are driving, the car is there, you're sitting in the back, and there are multiple signals that the driverless car is picking up from its vicinity, right? And it has to process all those signals and then take a decision what to do. If that processing goes, in a wrong direction, or there's delay in signal processing, it will lead to accidents, right? So the entire success of that application is dependent on latency. 5G enables that, right? Then we are talking about higher bandwidth. Okay, today most of us watch videos and movies on our laptop or mobile phone. The whole trend has changed. Gone are the days when we used to watch movies and series along with family at the prime time. There is no prime time anymore. Prime time is when you get time and you have your mobile and you start, right? So when you are watching all those things, you want to have the real experience. You don't want any lags, in the transmission side, right? And what will also happen is a lot of data will now be generated locally and will start coming from the local side. So today what is happening is the data is sitting at one central location and then, one central cloud, and then you are getting it from there. But a lot of the data, which can be local data in local language, can be processed right there. You don't need it to come from too far, right? So 5G is going to change the way we behave, the way we are living our lives, and it's going to make possible some of these applications, and that's where this whole enterprise sort of move is also taking place, and they see a big market there.
Got it. Thank you, Manishji. Phoramji, do you see any particular player per se within an industry that you can take an example of and describe the way you see it from your perspective, the way it is disrupting the industry or leading the pack?
I think a good example, is you started with Apple, as you correctly mentioned, right? Apple's entire brand was based on ease of use. For last 20 years since they came out with iPod, the whole thing was you don't have to worry about anything. But if you look at the area where they have invested the most amount of money, area where they're talking about the most is about trust. It's not because it's not just the ease. People, it used to be, again, that ease of use and security were trade-offs, and people just agreed and assumed that if you want ease, then you can't have security, you can't have privacy, you can't. But now, I think it's possible. Again, Manishji touched upon some of it, Ranjanji as well. The advancements that have happened are challenging that overall kind of assumption that you can't have it all. I think Apple's done that. Google, again, nobody thinks of Google as a security company, but the biggest investment, they just closed an acquisition of Mandiant, its biggest acquisition in security, about $40 billion this week. All it does is provide security services. If you look at Microsoft, they're completely changing themselves. They understand that enterprise applications are needed for collaborations for doing it, but their biggest push is as you move towards cloud, as you truly forget about all these technology infrastructure needs and focus on your business proposition. That can only happen if they take care of the security aspects to it. So there's lots of examples around how companies are changing their value proposition, their business model, by making sure that security, privacy, compliance, governance are all embedded in every aspect of the experience that you get from those service or product providers.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Ranjanji, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, Amolji. So what Phoram just said, I just wanted to add one more comment there. So in the Web 3.0 world, the cybersecurity, so network is a given thing. You cannot have a low bandwidth thing. Web 3.0 is not going to work in that case. So having a higher bandwidth, to Manish's earlier point, 5G type of a service is absolutely a minimum requirement. But along with that, because Web 3.0 is not just one piece that we can just protect that and it will work. There are so many different technologies coming together, like you mentioned, AI, ML, blockchain, right? And you have other things, trying to bring it all together and having that security posture throughout the entire landscape is even going to become more critical as trends, as the products, as the services start slowly moving towards that. So there is there's going to be even more demand for cybersecurity professionals to protect this whole new landscape that we are slowly moving towards.
Got it. So I have a follow-up question on that, right? While that makes the space, what you just described, right? You touched upon two things. The space is very exciting. There's going to be a lot of change. The professionals are not there, so there are skill challenges out there. Every challenge comes with an opportunity, and in this case it would be a big opportunity for professionals. Describe your view on how your company, or in your view in general, companies are addressing that, and what are the kind of opportunities that people are seeing in your space.
One thing, Amol, what I have personally started doing, as well as I'm seeing with my peers within own organization, is embracing that these trends are happening, right? Having an awareness is the first step. Then knowing that where we have the gap. So if we talk about, whether we talk about cybersecurity, whether we talk about 5G, whether we talk about AI, ML, knowing that these trends are reaching the mainstream or the products are evolving, if an organization is not really having those skills, how do we start filling those gaps? One easy way to do is, let's hire people. But these are emerging trends. So we are not going to find a whole lot of people with 20 years of experience in blockchain because it didn't even exist at that time. We're not going to find people with AI or a data science experience with 15, 20 years because that experience is like, you're only going to find very limited people, right? So if you're trying to create that set of resources, you have to start within, start training the people, start doing your self-education, and then continue to evolve with that. Because it's not like the resources are available and you just need to find it. No, there is a huge shortage, and Phoramji touched upon a little bit from a cybersecurity standpoint. The shortage even continues to grow more and more. because the speed of the supply demand, right? The supply is not going increasing, but the demand is increasing. And to my earlier comment, that bad actors, they have everything at their disposal. When we talk about corporations, if I need 20 resources, oh, you can only get 2. Bad actors, when they need money, they'll get the money for what they want to do, right? So it's a constant competition against, okay, we need to be right all the time, they need to be right only once. So how can you upgrade your skills by starting internally, and then obviously continue to go through trainings and going through certification? I think that would be a good channel for anyone to upskill their levels.
Yeah, if I may. Yeah, if I may just chip in, Amol, just to add to what Ranjan is saying, I think the same is true even in the 5G space and in general in the digital infra space, right? I mean, I think we have some brilliant engineers in India and across the world when it comes to RF optimization and the deployment of 3G, 4G technologies and soft switch and whatnot. But when you move to 5G, we are moving into a different world. I mean, the technology is changing. I mean, the type of deployments that are going to take place are also going to change. And I just saw one of the comment from, I think Rushabji about 5G increasing connectivity, I mean, the IoT and edge computing. Absolutely. I think with 5G, there's going to be a lot more edge compute that's going to happen. Maybe not today, maybe tomorrow, day after tomorrow, right? But it's going to happen. Where this is going to happen? This is going to happen not in the, the central or where the big data centers are taking, but this is going to take place at the tower level. Underneath the tower, right? I mean, you can have a small data center, not of 20, sort of higher capacity, but a small, very low capacity sort of data center. So I think, we as individuals, number one, I think we need to evolve there, upskill ourselves, with these technological changes, number one. Number two, I see a huge opportunity for SMEs also here, right? Because the Googles and the Facebooks or the American towers of the world will not be able to reach each and every corner of the country or the world. You will require a lot of, MSMEs, a lot of small scale industrialists, or people who are capable of doing that at a city level, at a state level, right? So those resources, I think, is where I would urge a lot of people to look at that more seriously, both from a business point of view as well as from a professional career point of view.
Got it. And Vishal ji is also here, and I wanted to bring him in for a little bit. Can we spotlight him? Yeah. Vishal ji.
No, thank you so much. And I just wanted to add a small bit. I know, fantastic discussion. But just on the point of what Ranjan ji said, that everybody has to be aware. Just to give you a reference, I work in Accenture. Accenture has 710,000 people, 710 lakhs of people, right? So every individual, every employee is taken through technology quotient training. Technology quotient has 12 modules. Every module is about 2 to 3 hours long. Okay. So 5G, sustainability, security, AI, everyone is taken through. Even if you are finance, even if you are legal, even if you are HR, even if you're operations. So the point is that just being aware of all these trends around us and how they're going to shape us, shape our life and our career is very, very critical. And I think the mindset has to be opened from the point of, hey, this is a technology, I'm not in technology, to be that, hey, this is all going to be around me and I need to know what's happening so that I can find my space and I can figure out the implication in my career, in my life. I think that was just one point. Just wanted to just mention that a company like Accenture, and I'm sure so many other companies, they all talk about technology quotient to be the imperative for each and every employee, just not the technology team or IT team only. That's point number one. And number two, I think beyond these trends, maybe the panelists can also touch upon the sustainability part, because many organizations, including Accenture, talks about that sustainability is going to be the next digital. So what we see right now in the last 10 years, things have changed, but 10 years forth, maybe the issues are becoming so alarming. The sustainability is really going to open up lots of opportunities and lots of lots of new areas which we are not even thinking today, right? So maybe if the panel can also touch upon what they see in that space, so that will be great. But thank you so much. I'll unmute myself. I'll mute myself.
Manish.
Yeah, no, Vishalji raised a very, very important point about the sustainability side, and it is true across the world now. I think this is at most of the board level discussions. This is always one key discussion. How can we improve the ESG component, right? And in the digital infra space, this is a lot more important. 5G is a technology that will consume a lot of power. Okay. Now, what is happening is today on the telecom towers, you have antennas of 2G, 3G, 4G, and now 5G also. So you will require a lot more space. You will require a lot more antennas. You will require a lot more, fiberization, microwave and whatnot, right? Obviously, I think, companies like Nokia, Siemens, Ericsson are working on it, and they are going to come up with a multi-band antennas, and that should reduce the power consumption. But still, the power consumption is on the rise. Okay, if you look at the power, at each tower, there's a significant amount of power that is required at each tower. Okay, and you multiply that by number of towers, you can imagine how much power is consumed at each site. Add to it the backup. You require battery backups. You require diesel generators where power is not even there, right? Because that's what is used basically as a main source of power. So, just on the power side, we are talking about enormous amount of diesel consumption, battery consumption, and there is a theft that's taking place. So I want to touch on the cybersecurity part also here, that even at telecom sites, there's a theft of power, there is theft of diesel. How can we reduce that, right? Each site serves roughly 2,000, 4,000, 3,000 subscribers per tower, right? If that site goes down, imagine how much chaos it will create in that particular part of the world, right? So having these sites which are green, which are based on, let's say, lithium-ion type of battery technologies, very important. Diesel consumption coming to zero, very, very important. Okay, how do we move up in that world? How do we have a sort of an ecosystem where you are using the the renewables, the solar panels? You have a lithium-ion battery which is used as a backup, right? And obviously, I think you are self-sustainable in that sense. So can you move in that? I think very important point that we need to look at. And there's going to be a lot of growth, a lot of jobs coming in that area. So again, we need to just keep our eyes and ears open on that.
In our conversation, Ranjanji, you brought up an interesting anecdote wherein you spoke about a situation where you had to take on added responsibility very recently. And then you started uncovering, got on top of it. Can you tell us and walk us through your process of how you prepared for that? Describe us the responsibility that you were given and how did you prepare for it? Because I think it would be very important for our audience to know how do they really prepare for something like this.
Sure. So for those who don't know about my career background, I have been in the cybersecurity space for about 21 years, and I joined Disney a few years back to be a part of the cybersecurity, a portion of the cybersecurity that we are working on. So last year we had some organizational changes, like any other corporate organization. We went through the change, and during that change, I was asked to not only focus on what I was doing, but focusing more from a strategy and transformation. But I was also asked to focus on coming up with a strategy for employee experience and innovation. So employee experience, innovation, and cybersecurity, that was like, okay, I don't know exactly how it's going to fit together in the same statement that I'm looking at experience and cybersecurity. So I'm like, okay, let's see how it goes. So it took some time to work with the leaders, work with the mentors, work with my peers to get an idea of what this could mean. But what happened during the course of time was, as I started interacting with venture capitalists, with the startups, what initially I thought, like any, there is, when a change happens, typically there is a resistance to the change. And I personally went through that. But what I started realizing was that either I can resist to that, or I can see this as an opportunity that I can embark on and figure out what could be my next path, what could be my next career journey, or something that I can find another interest. I've been in the cyber security space, like I said, like 2 decades. So I know I'm comfortable with that space, but is that an opportunity for me to expand my wings in other areas? And that's where, as I'm working with different companies, startups, I started realizing that innovation is something that I'm really enjoying. Not that it was a very natural flow of changes for me, but that's where I started spending time. And then Web 3.0, as an example, is the area where I'm spending a significant amount of time with our organization, with my peers. So the summary of the story here is that while you may go through a change, and change is inevitable, and so are the taxes. That's the saying in US, taxes and changes will always happen. But embrace the change, find the silver lining in the change, leverage your mentorship forum, whether it's forum like JITO or your informal forum at work or outside of work, to help you go through that change and find that silver lining that can help you take through that uncomfortable position that people sometimes get into. And it's like, no, I don't think I can, survive this, or I don't think I can really work here, or I don't think it's like, no, all those negative things, leverage that, the relationship you have built to convert that into positive, that you can then get excited and continue to just, embrace on that change and make it happen for yourself.
Yeah. Wow, that's a very interesting thought, Ranjan Jain. Thank you for sharing that. I'm hearing a theme, right? And Phoramji, I want to pose this question to you. You've been an entrepreneur as well. And if we hear a common theme of, how the horizon of cybersecurity now is being redefined, and you're also on the board of companies, I'm sure this discussion has reached the boardrooms as well. What would be your recommendation for the people as to how do they prepare for it?
So there's, pretty loaded questions. I take it a little bit more than cybersecurity. Clearly, as I mentioned in the slides, there are, at least I see 3 areas where if you are an individual in school, you can't wait until you learn at your first job. There were times when most of us graduated, or even a decade ago, that cybersecurity was not part of your tertiary curriculum, which is 12 plus. So now that has changed. In fact, we've been helping universities both in US and Singapore to inculcate security into high school curriculum. So it's definitely something that people have to start picking up. And it's one of the most interesting areas, just like gaming and everything that is happening in that area, that people that really have that skill set to think about from an attacker's perspective would truly enjoy this area. So for students, they should pick up those skills as early on as possible. For businesses, I think, again, Manishji touched on it, but SMBs and SMEs, as they digitize their offerings, as they reach out and leverage these technologies to go beyond the suburbs, beyond the cities, beyond the states, beyond the countries to offer those services, the biggest need that they have is that assurance around securing whatever it is, whether it is the money, whether it is the data, whether it is just their ability to operate and keep their systems on. So there is clearly a need for that they have to keep in mind, and either provide solutions that are reasonable, that are easy to use. There are amazing companies coming out of, again, India, but also globally, where there's a lot of room for innovation. Just like Aadhaar, I know, Amitabh Kanji used to say that unlike the Western world, the Indian innovators that create solutions for the 1.3 billion Indians will actually affect the 7 billion plus people that don't have the kind of resources. There is less than 1 billion people who look at the Western innovations. There is amazing amount of potential for Asia, for Africa, for a lot of people that for the first time, they're getting these kind of power. Just imagine people with 5G type of power and then nothing else to do. use and abuse is just, so there's lots of opportunities for innovation. And then for salaried folks, I think creating that way of differentiating and creating a trust value proposition is incredibly important. I mean, again, Vishalji mentioned sustainability. So, and we have covered kind of the environment, touched upon it, but there is the social aspect of it in the sustainability. And anytime anybody does this, so I'm involved with Stanford as an alum with, an impact think tank. And I think the equation, the capitalism definition is changing as these technologies come and the gap reduces, to not just think about risk, reward, or profit, and risk are no longer the only two things the businesses are asked to think about. The third and equally important, and this is already, there are regulations in Europe, in US, in India, the CSR is already mandatory, where impact is an important equation that people have to start creating or thinking about. And it's not just how much positive impact, how much donations that you make and how, but it's also how do you reduce the negative impact, again, with the power consumption. What type of power are you using? What type of people are you using? How is their lives changing? And businesses and individuals who have that ability to think that trans and cross-functional discipline and bring in all of these together to create a safe and a secure, inexpensive, and seamless experience, I think will benefit the most. I know it's a long-winded answer, but I think it's extremely important for businesses, for startup founders to start thinking about all of these aspects as they think coming up with their new innovations. Yeah?
Manishji, a quick addition to that answer.
No, I'll just add a funny part to that. When Phoramji was talking about the innovations in India, how they are serving other countries or other parts of the world, right? Not only on the technology side, I think Phoramji and Ranjanji can talk more about it, but even on the commercial modeling side, the type of commercial terms that Indians use, I mean, the world is learning from us. So.
Correct. No, so there are a lot of founders who have said that India is the most demanding market
Exactly.
that way. So we are in a very unique situation that way, where we have the India and the entire Southeast Asia as a great talent pool. They have the economies of scale to test their solution, but at the same time, we are very demanding. So, and one common thing that everybody touched upon was around mentorship. So I'm going to use that as a segue to bring Sanyogji in to help us know a little more about the mentorship platform. Sanyogji,
before Sanyog, I just want to touch on one more area, which I believe is coming soon. And I think we as a JITO family here need to know about this, and that's satellite communication. Okay.
Oh yes.
I think very, very important technology, lot of experimentation going on, lot of innovation going on in that area. Please watch out for that space. I think in next 5 years, this can be one of the disruptors. Okay. So again, SpaceX, OneWeb, AST, Space Mobile, some companies I'm just naming here, look out for them, what they're doing in this space. And obviously digital infra is going to be very important for them as well. So, but that's something which, maybe for next session, we can talk more on.
Yeah, especially in the low orbit space,
exactly,
below stratosphere, satellites. Yeah.
Sorry, Sanyogji.
Thank you for bringing up. Sanyogji, please tell us a little more about the mentorship platform.
Thank you, Amolji. Just so exciting. I'm one of those people who is a non-technical person, but even I'm finding it very, very liberating and mind expanding. The discussion is concerned. One of the flagship program of JPF is the JPF Mentorship Program. Now, under this program, any Gen community member living anywhere in the world can seek virtual membership from our esteemed mentors. The importance of the program has been recognized by JITO, and we talked about the impact, and the impact which this program is creating is well received. And it is for this reason at the Goa convention of JITO, this program was given special recognition. Now, there are, many avenues for mentorship. There are many avenues for professional development, and mentoring is one of the very important as well as the most widely used one. And there's a definition which is credited to John C. Crosby about mentorship. It's a brain to pick, an ear to listen, etc., etc. But the JPF mentorship is slightly different because it goes one step further. And the step further is that your mentor is not only extremely knowledgeable, but he or she also comes from the community and is committed to helping another member of the community. So that is what is so special about the JPF mentorship program. To date, we have on board 52 mentors. The vision is to have 100 top-notch industry leaders on this panel, representing 24 plus industries, 15 different areas of mentorship. And, as of last week, I should say, more than 383 community members have taken either one-on-one mentoring or group mentoring sessions. And what I would say is that these individuals have taken mentorship in a variety of different areas: operations, finance, career planning, career progression, just to name a few of those things. And the best part of it, and I don't want to underscore this, but what is also important, that there is no cost for this mentorship. I don't think that you can get anything like this anywhere in the world. Now, how is this program really executed? If you have a straightforward question, you can have one-on-one discussion with one of our mentors, and we call it as flash mentoring. If there are a few of you who are interested in one particular topic, we generally invite them, and also a mentor who speaks about that particular topic. We've had 21 such sessions so far in the last about 15, 16 months. And then if you and the mentor really decide that meeting more than once is going to be beneficial, then we also have developmental mentoring sessions. We will be shortly introducing the coaching as well as the startup mentoring program. In order to register for the program, there is information and which is there on your screen, and I would request Rahulji to just post this information also in the chat box. You can join our WhatsApp group. We already have, I think, about 450 community members on the two groups that we run, WhatsApp group. And that way you will be able to get information on the upcoming programs in a very prompt manner. And last and not the least, I also want to tell you the effort which goes behind running a program such as this. You heard from Mr. Vishal Jain. He is the convener of the program. Mr. Nipun Jain, he is the co-convener of the program. And then we have Sushma ji, she's the member. We have Amol ji, he's the member. Rahul ji, he is the member, and myself. And we have the JPF committee members who constantly guide us. Mr. Milan Shah, he's the director in charge. We have Mr. Ajay Ji Bora, he's the chairman of JPF. And then we have Mr. Prashant Jain, he's the vice chairman of JPF. And keeping everybody on track and really running this program is Mansi Vegala. She is part of the JITO secretariat. She's the program manager. And her contact is given in the message that has been posted in the chat box. You might have even interacted with her in the past. So this is what it is as far as the JPF program is concerned. And I would encourage you to seek out mentorship in whichever areas that you would want to from our mentors. And with that, I would like to hand over it back to you, Amolji, to continue the program.
Thank you. Thank you, Sanyog ji. I want to put a little bit of twist to the Q&A, and we had an interesting question that came in, and I want to pose that to our mentors. What would be your advice to a 20-year-old self, knowing where you have come today? And then, I can go to Ranjan ji. Do you want to take a stab at it first? An advice to 20-year self.
Okay. Oh boy, that was a while back. If I had this group when I was at 20, I think I would I probably would be somewhere else. Leveraging the power of this group, having mentors like what we have in this group, having the village of esteemed professionals that are available to help the Jain community. If I had that, during my 20s, I think I would be on a different path. So leverage it. It's there for everyone. Leverage it. Amol, you're on mute.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll just jump in and probably make some controversial comments. I don't know. It's extremely hard to pick a field, right? Because honestly, there's lots that is changing. But what I would say from a skill set perspective, there is absolutely no substitution for technology knowledge. So if you can't code, I mean, even a little bit, I think it puts you at a huge disadvantage. If you have that ability, I'd say learn to code. Whether you work in computer science as a developer or you don't, every single industry is going to have software is going to just transform everybody. AI, ML, that convergence, whenever that happens, and all the other technologies that are coming in. But that would be one skill set that I would tell myself to pick up, which, fortunately, in spite of me wanting to join armed forces and then become a veterinarian, as it used to happen, at least my dad decided I should be doing computer science when I was 20. But that's one skill set I would definitely pick up. I just leave with one other thought, though, to know that as important as the hard skills are, and they will ultimately at least define the first few years of your career, there is an inverse equation between how the substance versus style, or content versus communication, or hard versus soft skills changes as you grow in your career. If you cannot communicate your ideas, if you cannot articulate your strategy, if you cannot influence decision makers, it doesn't matter how good you are technology that you pick up, you absolutely will see some kind of a disadvantage because of your inability to manage and have those interpersonal skills. So those are extremely important, and they will stay important, not just for you to grow, but also as you transform careers or as you move across careers, which I think will again happen, as nobody will stay in the same field for more than a few years, more than a decade, which never used to happen before.
Manishji, you have made it to the boardrooms, right? And a lot of people at least aspire that one day they make it there. Right? What would be your advice to the?
One thing I definitely say, if I was 20, although I'm not far from 20, but still, jokes apart. But one area which I ignored when I was 20, today I feel that I should have not done that, is learning more on the finance side. I personally feel today that combination of finance and aware of digital or technology space is a killer combination. And no matter which company you're working for, which industry you're working for, these two combinations can be your winning strategy. I used to think that marketing can win everything. I'm not saying marketing has its own runway. Beyond that, you need substance. That substance comes from whether you understand technology or not, you have the operational skills or not, and most importantly, is there a return on what you're asking for? Can you make business positive? Can you have the profitable business, right? And I think these two combinations are very, very important. So don't ignore finance. I keep saying this to my daughter also, who is not listening to me right now, but one day she will, I'm sure. But so that's just my addition to what Ranjan ji and Phoram ji said.
Yeah. Ranjan ji, you want to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing that I just thought of, that being a technologist, one thing that I have started now focusing on is technology keeps changing, and so does the business. And knowing your business will really help in picking the right technology and working closely with the business team. So what happens typically is as technologies, we're like, oh, these are the solutions, make it happen, right? Knowing, getting a better understanding of the business will not only help in picking the right technology, but building those relationships that can have a much longer impact. So that would be another advice I would say.
Thank you. So technology, business, both of them put together, deadliest combination. I think that's the summary of it. I'm not going to go to the Q&A that has come in the chat box. The first question that I see as I could pick up was from Akriti, and she's asking, with ever evolving customer need in technology landscape, what trends can we expect in digital product design, which can ensure inclusivity and digital safety of customers? Ranjan ji, Phoram ji, who wants to pick that?
I mean, again, there is like a press-based answer that I'll give. Inclusivity are extremely important. There is a lot of discussion happening on how automation, AI, most of the algorithms, most of those training models that come out are extremely biased, because the data that they've been using to learn new things is very narrow, very limited, very focused on a particular demographics or type of people. So clearly there is need, and depending on who your product is for, to make sure that the data that is used to build those models, is diverse enough. But on the safety, which is my core area, the three key areas that I see from trends is there is a huge push for what we call in cybersecurity is shifting left, which means embedding security as early as possible in your design discussions. So, again, for the longest time, people only worried about or think about the use cases and the best use cases and somewhat of corner cases, but never the abuse cases. And because your delivery of your product is going to primarily happen over technology, it's extremely important to factor in all aspects of security, whether it is availability, whether it is confidentiality, whether it is privacy, as early as possible into your design step. The second is, thinking truly into technologies like 5G and cloud, and what does that mean? What is latency mean on one hand? What does, if they have 2G only, and will your product's experience be impacted or not? Because it's not going to go away. I mean, it will eventually, but you have to, again, inclusivity also, but thinking about security for those type of things as well. And then lastly, I think it is data. So I won't go too far into it, but if you followed what Ranjanji was talking about Web 3.0, I think the mindset have to shift. It started with consumption. It came to communication or interaction. And now everything that happens on the internet is about control. The ownership of the data is controlled by you as individuals, as the consumers, and as the companies. And your product has to take that into consideration, where the ownership will always stay with the consumer. I mean, it's already happening in banking with open banking and all of that stuff. And for the trust to stay and for you to truly be able to, respect the safety and digital attributes or the principles or values that you want to communicate, keep in mind that the ownership and control in the new era will belong to the consumers.
If I may just add to that question from a little bit different perspective, and I think which is also related to what Nikhil Mehta, if I remember right, he was also asking the same thing. So in the digital infra space, the digital product design, the way it is changing is the towers will no more be looking like the towers that you see today. The 45 meter, 50 meter, 30 meter tower, the rooftops, they're all changing. And because of the 5G spectrum, we will be requiring many more towers, a very dense network. The tower height will reduce to 12 meter, 15 meter pole, right? So that's one change that you will see. Now, obviously, these towers don't look the city good. right? The moment you see towers, with all these radios hanging on and power, it doesn't look nice. So there's a lot of camouflage that's taking place around that. So there's this design aspect also to it, the beauty aspect to that whole thing. And what is also happening on the tower now is a camera is coming in from cybersecurity point of view, right? I mean, the Wi-Fi hotspot is coming in on the tower. A LED light is coming on the tower. So the entire, and then you talk about the smart furniture, street furniture, right? So a lot is happening in that space. And again, I see the same thing. There is a space. This is a space where entrepreneurs can enter in and provide a lot more innovation in how these new designs and new products will look like.
Wow. So I think that's physical meeting digital and design experience at the heart of it. I'm going to pick one question, and I think it is related to what a lot of people commonly term as mid-career crisis. And I'll pose that question to you, Ranjan.
I thought it was midlife crisis.
Yeah. So one is personal and one is professional, right? So very, very often people feel lost midway through their career. Ranjan, there's a question. They says, it's okay, about 20 years old. The person who's asking this question has around 15 years of experience. And if a person like that wants to jump and change careers or wants to build a career in something new, I know you touched upon it a little bit. Can you give a prescriptive advice to this person or to the audience?
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's a great question. And I'm sure in our careers, we all have gone through at some points like, okay, what is the next thing? So what I would say there is when you're at a point where either you are feeling stuck or you feel like, okay, I've achieved within that company, you have reached that level that you thought you wanted to be. And now it's like, okay, what's the next thing? One thing what I have done is I use just personally, I have this kind of a worksheet that I use, which helps me out in creating a structure in my own head. It's not something that for my own personal discipline, what I want to do next, right? Where do I see myself in the next 3 to 5 years? And if I say, oh, I want to be the C level, or I want to, it's not chasing the title, because that doesn't really help. Like, because sometimes chasing the title does a reverse job of, you were happy earlier, you chase the title, and now you're not happy because you were not really prepared for that level of responsibility. So it's not just about going up in the ladder. Sometimes you have to look at in parallel, like going more on the lattice side. So what do you want to do in the next 3 to 5 years? Look at that, think about it. Look at the opportunities available. So we talked about different emerging trends. Look at where you have those possibilities within your own organization. Find ways where if you can get those stretch assignments, get those gigs, work with your leadership to see if you can get involved into any of those projects, to start testing the waters, whether is this something that you want to grow professionally in that space, because that's a more safe way for you to test it out, rather than, oh, I'm quitting my job and I'm jumping to a startup. Next thing is like, no, that's not what I'm liking, and you're kind of stuck, right? So test the waters, and if this is truly something that you feel like, no, that's I'm liking it, I want to grow more into the career, continue to educate yourself, learn more from the industry. Google is a great example. Google as a search engine where you can get a lot more about a technology. So, and then leverage forums like this with the mentorship to help you build your career, right? So you'll hear a lot more from me, where it's like, continue to leverage your mentoring forums, because what an individual could be going through, there are many others who have already gone through that. So take their experience to expedite your work, so that you don't feel stuck, or you don't feel alone in your career journey.
Yeah, very important advice. Always vertical movement in a career doesn't mean you're being successful. Sometimes you have to go through a lateral journey, and sometimes you have to shrink before you grow again. So with that, we'll formally close the program today with the vote of thanks. But that doesn't mean that our panelists are going to go away. We will continue this program again after 11:30, and people will have an opportunity to ask live questions. to our panelists. But because we have to also respect the time for our attendees and our panelists, I would now like to invite Sanyog ji for the vote of thanks. Sanyog ji, over to you.
Thank you so much, Amolji, and all our panelists. First and foremost, I want to thank the audience, the participants, for attending the program. The Tokyo Olympics could be held without the participants, but a webinar like this cannot be held without the participants. So thank you so much. Please do share with us the other topics that you would want us to cover, either as a level up series or as a group session. You can always write to us, and that information was made available to you in the chat box. I also want to thank our panelists, Ranjan ji, Manish ji, and Phoram ji. I don't know whether you all realize that they are all at different time zones, and the clock set where they are is actually quite late, but they all agreed to come together and share their knowledge with us and their time. I do realize that Manish ji has to leave, so we will understand that you will be taking you're traveling, so you have to leave. We understand that part. So it was a beautiful session. Even for a person like me, a non-technical person, I got so much out of it. As a personal rule, I don't like to summarize because I am not very good at summarizing, and it will be unfair to summarize the things that have been shared in this particular session. The recording of the session will be available on the YouTube in the next few days. And from this point forward, the participants can come on the mic and they can ask the questions